The writer and creative director of Days Gone says that players shouldn't complain. This is a quote. Shouldn't complain if a game doesn't get a sequel if they didn't buy it, and this is also a quote, at fucking full price. But wait, there's more. Let's give this guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's just being taken out of context. Let's add some context to this little quote here. And this is a quote here. I do have an opinion. So this was in an interview with VGC. And this is via Eurogamer. I do have an opinion on something that your audience may find of interest, and it might piss some of them off, he said. He said.
Came in hot.
If you love a game...
I got a hot take, baby.
That's a hot take. He's dishing the hot takes. If you love a game, buy it at fucking full price. I can't tell you how many times I've seen gamers say, yeah, I got that on sale. I got it through PS Plus, whatever. Don't complain if a game doesn't get a sequel if it wasn't supported at launch, he said. It's like God of War got whatever number millions of sales at launch and, Days Gone didn't. Just speaking for me personally as a developer, I don't work for Sony. I don't know what the numbers are. Then he also opened up on the impact piracy has had on game development, where he said, I can tell you that when we were doing Siphon Filter Dark Mirror on the PSP, we got so fucked on Dark Mirror because piracy was a thing, and Sony wasn't really caught up on what piracy was doing to sales, he explained. And we would show them the torrents. A torrent site had 200,000 copies of Dark Mirror being downloaded. If I remember it right, the numbers could be wrong, but regardless, I was pissed about it then. I was like, this is money out of my pocket. So I think the uptick in engagement with the game is not as important as did you buy the game at full price, because if you did, then that's supporting the developers directly. Okay. So this is one of the dumbest takes I've heard in a hot minute, okay? Here's why. His quote that you should buy a game at full price if you love it presupposes that you know that you're going to love the game before you buy said game. You don't always know that. Furthermore, his game, Days Gone, came out to mediocre Metacritic scores and not great user scores, just kind of middle of the road. So it's not like people were going to rush out to spend full price on a mediocre game from a franchise that nobody fucking had any attachment to beforehand because it was new. And then to top of that, to have the fucking audacity and the nuts to compare Days Gone to God of fucking War is one of the craziest things I've ever seen somebody try and attempt to do as a game developer. You're comparing one of the most storied and well-beloved franchises in Sony history that was put together by one of their flagship studios at Santa Monica with your not-so-hot, middling new IP about some average middle-aged white dude on a motorbike with zombies. And you're going to try and say people should be paying full price if they love the game to support it. No, what you need to say is if you really love the games that a developer makes and you want to support them and you don't care if the game is good, you're just buying it to support the developer. That's what he wants to say. Because if you look at all we've talked about here in the last few weeks about new games coming out that are AAA from AAA studios, how good have they been, Mr. Black?
Well, 95% of them, hot garbage.
Wow! Have they worked on day one?
Yes. Because they sold a bajillion of hot garbage.
No, I mean, did the games work?
Oh! No, they're broke as fuck. But they still sold a shit ton of copies.
They did.
Because of the hype train.
They did.
Oh, but then they had to refund a shit ton of copies. Because of the hype train.
The money worked great.
Yeah. The game didn't.
You know what Days Gone needed, Jeff? Keanu Reeves.
They needed Keanu Reeves. Listen, dude. Listen, I'll play devil's advocate. I understand.
Go for it.
I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
All right. But the way he framed it, the way he worded it, and even the way he went into the conversation where he was like, motherfuckers, I got something to say. He even dropped some F-bombs. Motherfuckers, I got something to say.
He pulled a Cliffy B, Jeff. He's being edgy.
That you guys ain't gonna like. I told these dumb motherfuckers over at Sony that our game was getting pirated. Now I went on this BitTorrent website where all the fucking boomers go, and it had like 200,000 downloads. Now I'm not sure if that was the right number or not, but I know it was in the thousands. And I said, all these cocksuckers are downloading my siphon filter or whatever the fuck it's called. And I told Sony, but they were, they were Generation Z or whatever, and they just didn't understand what the fuck pirating was. And I told these guys, we're getting screwed here. So when my game came out, there was like 200,000 already downloads. In my calculations, that's at least 180,000 people that was going to buy the game that didn't buy the game. And I'm telling you, and now I've got these cocksuckers on social media saying, yeah, I bought your game when it was on sale on the Sony Plus store or whatever for $4.99, but I didn't buy it when it was full price. Now, I didn't get to buy eggs and bread when it was grocery time during those days. It was rough. I made $1 off that damn sale when I should have made $17. That was my cut, but I didn't make shit. Because you cocksuckers went in and you motherfucking pirated my game. Now listen,
you poor bastards with no money waiting to buy a game on sale.
I understand, but maybe just maybe if we didn't live in an era where game developers aren't throwing out games now, listen, the buyers are getting smarter. All right. They're just getting smarter. They're going, you know what? Fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, shame on me and you. Right? That's where they're at right now. And the gamers, not only we're in a free-to-play world, but on top of that, we're in a world where you can watch reviews, streams, YouTube. You can read blogs and whatever on games. It is harder unless you are a hype train with Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
Right? It is harder to create the perfect storm to create some buzz and sell a game in the millions right off the bat. It's very, very difficult because we've been burned too many times, like being in a relationship and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I just keep getting cheated on. I don't know why they keep doing this to me. But then you realize that you're trying to find the love of your life, like at a like on Tinder, like Tinder Plus, where they all get extra swipes and they're just looking to fuck. And it just so happens that you're semi-compatible. So you think you're getting in a relationship and then you realize that they're definitely screwing other people. That's basically what this is. And it's sad. Because developers, I sympathize with them. They want to make their money. They're passionate about this because, like, what a lot of people don't see is, if, for example, we're streamers, right? Say we're a podcast. If we're in a sea of other podcasts, which we are, and we are dependent on people going to the Patreon and supporting the Patreon in order for us to make money, or they could just wait until the podcast comes out on Spotify or something where we might make pennies on the dollar, which, whatever.
Pennies on the $100.
On the $100, right? And it's like, yeah, it's, I didn't say it's, this is an analogy, okay, guys? This isn't like
reality
facts here, but what I'm saying is, yeah, we would prefer you to throw money at the damn Patreon because we're going to make more money, which means we're going to be able to do this longer. Yeah. He would rather you buy the game at full price because it's going to allow the studio to greenlight another project and for them to realize maximum profits on their game. If it goes to the bargain bin and everybody's buying it on the bargain bin, well, then it's usually either because the game's open for a long time, has been super successful, and they've already nailed what they needed to nail, and now they're just getting the residual, the people that didn't buy the game up front but heard it was okay and now it's super cheap, let's go ahead and grab it. That's bonus money. But what they don't want is they don't want people not buying the game even though they're interested or whatever, and just waiting. You know what? Because a lot of people say this. I'll just wait for it to go on sale on Steam. You say the same thing about movies in theater. I'll just wait for it to go on Netflix. You're hearing that a lot more, right? They don't want you to do that. They want you to go out there and buy it. The problem is it's a lot harder to win people over to go out and make that plunge because games are $89.99, because we've been burned by games like Cyberpunk and the game that made an epic comeback and shit. No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
And all those alpha games that came out, the fucking like shell of games that come out, milk you, and then take your money and run. Like, listen, it goes back to the fool me once, fool you twice, fool me three times. Shame on us. It's harder. So like, I get what he's saying, but he's coming off like in a very aggressive, like he's saying the things that you just shut up about. You just say behind the scenes, like, I really wish these guys would just fucking buy my game. And just cater to them. Tell the people what they want to hear, not like what's going to make them go and pirate your next game, you dumbass. Why in the fuck would you say something like that? Because now, the internet is the internet. They can go, oh, there's 200,000 downloads on your last one. Let's get to 2 million. Let's get like
challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted, right? So like, I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, he just worded it horribly. It's a bad take. It's a hot take, and it's not our responsibility as buyers to run out there and buy your game on the off chance that we're gonna love it so we can get a sequel. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Make your game, advertise it correctly. Create a competent game with good trailers, some gameplay footage. Do what everybody else does. Get some streamers to fucking play your game and, actually work for it. Don't just, be entitled to us going out and spending $90. It just doesn't work like that anymore.
Like, think about how many games come out now. Like, because gaming has become so prolific. Think about how many games come out now. Think about, if you look at attach rates to consoles, for example, the lifetime of a console, it's not as many games as you might think. You're looking at maybe 15, 20 games, somewhere in that neighborhood for like a lot of people. You'll always get like outliers who've got like fucking 50 games over the life cycle of a console or some shit. But in reality, you've only got you've got a selection. And so when you've got all of these games and the quality of games on average is better now than it was in the past. So your selection of games that are possible purchases are higher than they ever have been before. And now you're in a situation where as a developer, you're really, like the reasons you said as well, streams and all this other shit, there are more and more ways for people to discover if it's something that they're actually interested in before ponying up $79.99, $89.99, whatever, for these games, because at the end of the day, they only have so much money to spend. And they have to be picky choosy with what game do I absolutely need to play on day one?
Yep.
And what game is unlikely going to bother me if I don't play it for 6 months when it's half as much money and I have that money laying around. Like you said it right there at the end, where it's not the buyer's responsibility to fund your fucking game to make sequels. It's if you make a really fucking good game and you advertise it well, odds are it is going to make enough money in sales to get a sequel.
Not only that, dude, even if you make a really good game and you don't have the marketing dollars, you just make a really good game. We're in a viral world.
Yeah.
All it takes is a PewDiePie, a fucking...
Look at Among Us.
Look at this, right? You just make a good fucking game. And 2 weeks later, 3 months later, a year later, 3 years later, your game could absolutely be massive. If Among Us cost $80, it would never be the game it was. It's a bargain basement game that got super famous long after its release, and now look at it. You know what I mean? You
know what, Grumpy? Valheim is another good example of this.
Valheim, exactly.
Valheim came out early access in a genre that's been so fucking saturated it's unreal, and yet word of mouth alone, and it sold like top of Steam for weeks.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like, so I honestly, you know what I think? I think this guy's salty that he was heading up, directing a mediocre video game
That's it.
that he thought the world would love because it had a white dude with a beard and a baseball cap shooting zombies.
Yep.
And it turned out that while people thought it was a pretty okay game, they weren't going to go out and spend full price day one on a new IP that was basically looking like every other fucking game. There was I remember when this was announced, there was one or two other games in the same release window that looked almost identical to the point where I couldn't, if you put them side by side and ran trailers, I would have a hard time picking out which one was which because they looked so fucking similar.
Yeah.
So, and you're not wrong as well. I mean, he worded it terribly. I mean, he
Oh, it
could
was
have
just horrible.
he could have worded it better and it still wouldn't have been a great take,
Yeah.
but at least he wouldn't have looked even more of a douche.
I mean, he could have said something in the lines of like, listen, for everybody that's reading this or watching this or whatever they're doing, is like, if you really want to support, if there's a game that you think is going to be great, and you really want to support it, give it the best chance possible to have a sequel greenlit as fast as possible. Go out there and support it at its full price. That'll allow the developers, the studio, to make as much money as possible, and have the confidence to go ahead and preemptively greenlight the sequel. If not, not saying that it'll never happen, but it definitely becomes harder. It's no different than the movie business, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the times sequels aren't greenlit right away, but they'll know within a week, or even where the numbers are tracking before it's released, if they're going to make a sequel. If the movie comes out and it doesn't do so hot, sometimes they cancel the sequel, but then sometimes it hits Netflix, it goes cheap, it goes on streaming for $1.99 on iTunes, and the thing fucking blows up because people kind of heard about it, but they weren't like, I'm not going to like go out of my way to the movie theaters, pay for a babysitter, go out there, spend $80 to go out there with my significant other. I ain't got the time. We're in the middle of Rona, whatever the case that they can come up with, right? Because if you're not completely sold in a game, you can come up with a million excuses to not buy the game. You can just find a million. Oh, I'll watch it on Twitch. Oh, I watch it on YouTube. Oh, I'll wait for it to go on Steam. Oh, all this. Oh, I've got this other game I'm playing right now. You're going to come up with anything. I got a ton of homework to do. I should probably start looking for a job. The last thing I want to do is pour 100 hours into a game. You'll come up with anything. But if the game is cheap enough and it's the same set of circumstances, fuck it, I'll buy it. It's $9.99. It's $19.99. Fuck it. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, whatever. But at a full price, you gotta fucking nail this shit. And the thing is when these movies come out and then they go on streaming service, they blow the fuck up, and then they greenlight the godforsaken sequel. They go, oh my god, it's now turned into a cult classic. Make the sequel.
Jumanji.
I mean, dude, it's endless. The amount of comedies, the amount of horror movies, you name it. It's countless that has happened. And the same thing can happen for his mediocre games. Sometimes you price yourself out of what the game actually is worth. And if you just priced it correctly, you would have actually been able to greenlight a second one. But instead, you overcharged for something in a space, because as soon as you put on a AAA $79.99, you're up against every other $79.99 game in existence. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. If you come in at $39.99, you are now at almost half the price of a full-blown game. So now there's a huge chunk of potential buyers that are going, okay, this is cheap enough that I can afford this game and a half a month. Maybe I'm going to go and buy that Call of Duty, and I'll go buy this shitty Siphon Filter game or whatever the case may be for $40 or $29.99. The moment you put yourself up there, that's it. Sometimes it takes the bargain bin to win over the horde so that you can actually sell in game and put it in the hands of people.
You know what I think? You know what I think the sweet spot is right now? If I was a game developer and I was making a game, do you know what I think? Honest to God, in US dollars, I think the sweet spot right now in US dollars for a game, if I was going to go develop one, I would be developing it with the thought in mind that this game is going to cost $29.99.
Damn, for a AAA?
No, just for a game in general. Like if I'm developing a game, I'm gonna scope the game to be sold for $29 up to $39. I'll give you a range. That $10 pocket.
Yeah.
I think that's where you do really well. I think you sell a ton of games on volume, and like you said, you give yourself a better chance at exposure to be able to sell another game down the road and keep that bad boy going. Reuse assets, whatever you want to do, make it cheaper, make your money afterwards. I think that's the pocket. And you're seeing a lot of, I'm going to say indie, but at this point, you know, they're big.
Really indie.
They're bigger indie now.
Yeah.
You know, they're still small. They're still small teams, but they're like a B. It's like a B movie, right?
Yeah.
It's like their budget is big enough. They've got one or two one recognizable actor in there or whatever the fuck. You know, the budget was reasonable. You know, that's kind of where the pocket is. That's where you're talking about games like Hades, for example, from Supergiant.
Yep.
That is winning more awards than it can put on a fucking shelf at this point and selling shitloads of copies. And it costs, you know, $29 fucking or whatever that. Like that's, I think, the pocket for a lot of games now, because you're gonna have so many games like it cost fucking $90 Canadian. Fuck yourself. I'm gonna get mad if I think about it. There's just so much money. Like, you're 1/4 of the console. What the fuck? You're gonna buy 1/4 of the price of the console in one video game. Stop the madness. Just stop it.